As the title of this video would suggest, it's a bit of a touchy subject, if you will. And I'm not even gonna take a political stance on the matter. It's not even a take even related to that. It's not even data based. It's purely based on experience, and that's why I think that's the reason why this is such an important topic, because too many times it's such a touchy subject. Throwing the hard R around, um, especially in liberal circles, is really touchy, right? No one wants to be called that or accused of such things. But anyhow, I think the reason that I really wanted to touch on this topic is because, unfortunately, the people that end up getting punished are those that have compassion or misplaced compassion. And I've heard this story many times over at different iterations of it, but it's something along the lines of someone wants to prove that, they're not racist, or that a certain subgroup or a certain group or ethnic group is not what people say they are, right? So they go to these places. I remember there was a story about this white girl. I think she was doing her dissertation in Chicago. So she's like, I'm gonna go and prove that, blacks in low income neighborhoods are not what they say they are, which is like violent criminals. And then she ends up getting stabbed whilst doing her dissertation. Obviously doesn't finish it, right? And those are the people that end up paying the price. Is that too many times theory does not equal practice, right? Too many times they have these ideas in their mind, and then they're faced with the stark reality that, unfortunately, what you prove or what you try to prove ends up disproving itself. And look, at the end of the day, this is all about content of people's character. If the content of their character constantly being shown to be negative, and you keep seeing that, then it's pretty clear that it is. And this goes across various races. So let me tell you my particular experience. My parents end up, when I was in high school, I was about 15. They end up wanting to move to a suburb, right? But these suburbs are like the Parisian suburbs, which is that the ghetto people end up living outside of the city, right? So it's the inverse. It's not the suburbs that, they paint as like pretty and safe and family oriented. These are Section 8 baby mother asylums. I mean, they're horrible places to live. There's drugs and just all kinds of vices. And so I went to high school 3 years of my life there, and it was a really, really different, experience than from when I was growing up here in the city in LA, where there it was a little bit diverse, but I wouldn't say it was ghetto in any way. There wasn't that hood element. You could say there was a little bit of it, but you could get away from it if you wanted to, right? It wasn't in your face like it was where I was. So anyhow, I moved to this desert, really metaphorically, physically, spiritually a desert. And what ends up happening is that I get sucker punched, right? One time in high school, I was on the way to class, and the bell had rung, and there was like these race riots between blacks and Hispanics. And I was walking to class, and walking with one of my classmates, and she's just walking beside me, and this dude says like, "Oh, F Mexicans," and I was like, "All right, buddy. I mean, what am I gonna do about that?" And then him and his boys, like they leave, or I thought they left. I guess Buddy came around and sucker punched me. The problem wasn't so much the sucker punch. The problem was that he used brass knuckles. Is from what a teacher that was a witness saw. So he hit me with brass knuckles in my right eye right here. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could say that I'm lucky to still have an eye, because it was like the stitches were like super close, basically a couple millimeters away from my actual eye. So it was very dangerous. It could have changed my life forever, right? And so you could tell me, oh, well, you can make the case. Well, it's because it's one person. You can't possibly, demonize an entire group based off one person's experience. All right, fine. Granted, I'll give you that. Sure. And then a couple years roll around. It continued with these race riots because we had purchased a home a couple blocks away from the high school. So even after I had graduated, we were still in the area. And one day something happens outside. My dad tells some one of the black kids to like get off the grass, and then he punches my dad, makes his nose bleed. I come outside, I punch the guy, and then like one of his boys sucker punches me. So I'm like, here we go again. Twice sucker punch. This time with no brass knuckles. Thankfully, it was not dangerous in any way. I was good. We ended up beating up those guys. But I was like, man, this is what I'm talking about. This sort of like knucklehead, degenerate, like violent areas with these ghetto people. I was like, I want no parts of it. And I do everything in my power now to stay away from any sort of hood elements. Anytime that I can, I stay away from all of that riffraff. I can't stand it. It's disgusting. It's just nothing I want to be a part of, especially now, like after what I had experienced. And so look, you could make the case for a lot of groups of people. It's not like I'm just targeting blacks. It's just my experience with black people is that black men in particular, this is what they've done. I wouldn't even call them men, right? Children, infantiles. This sort of victim mentality that they can go ahead and do these things and that's not considered racist, or this violence is like, oh, it's caused by the system. Like, I don't want to hear that from anyone. This is nonsense. And the other thing is too, is like, I can give you the example of like, if you're, let's say you're a French guy and you get jumped by a bunch of Moroccans, immigrants. I don't blame you if you hate those people. I don't blame you if you have ill will or pent up resentments against certain groups of people. If your experience has told you that these people have done wrong things to you, have done bad things to you, then I don't blame you for not wanting to be around them. It's a natural reaction. I guess the problem is that if you're basing it off of things that you see that are not in your actual experience, then it's kind of misleading, because it's like, well, you haven't experienced it, right? So until you have, then you can base it off that, right? I think in this case, right, being a little bit racist or being racist, quote unquote, could save your life, right? Like now, you think I'm ever gonna let a black guy walk behind me again? Absolutely not. I've already been sucker punched twice. It's not gonna happen again. I don't wanna live in a neighborhood where there's enough black people that they could be a crowd and jump me or attack me or something like that. I don't wanna live in any low income areas, absolutely not. I'd do anything in my power to get away from those type of areas. So yeah, that's the main thing, is just staying away from these people. And also too, I lived in DC and that was the other experience, right? I lived in DC and most of the homeless people there were these black guys and they were super aggressive, telling me you got money, this and that. And I'm from the West Coast. Like, I'm a soft, nice guy. I'm not used to that. It's not something I deal with on a daily basis. Nobody harasses me for money outside of a 7-Eleven or an AM/PM or wherever I was, on my way to grab a drink to study till like 3 or 4 in the morning, so I wasn't used to that. So that was the other experience I had there. So really the reality is, like, I don't blame anybody for hating someone based off of things that have happened to them in the past, because look, the reality is people can say hateful things, they can spew quote unquote racism, whatever. I don't even care. Get that off your chest. If anything, that's a healthy reaction. That's a healthy discourse. I would rather someone tell me in my face, I don't like people like you, for example, right? Than them actually doing something, committing actual acts of violence. Big difference between saying something and doing something. You could say whatever you want all day. That I don't have a problem with. It's the people that do things and then that say things and then do things. That's where I think the danger is ultimately. And so look, the lesson is that you should prioritize your well-being and safety. I mean, that is a lesson here. And you can tell me what you want about the system and they're a victim of their circumstance and whatnot. But what kind of culture breeds these type of people? You tell me that, right? And it's not like I don't have hate in my heart. I don't even care. Like, the things that happen, whatever, I guess they had to happen, right? And it's not like I'm gonna hold on to that. That's why I can freely talk about it. The main thing is, prioritizing your safety, and like compassion can only take you so far. Misplaced compassion is actually, I think, in this case, very dangerous if lended to the wrong people. So let this be a lesson that maybe perhaps a little bit of racism, to put it lightly, can be a lifesaver, can potentially save your life, can get you away from any dangerous circumstances. And if you need to exercise it, so be it. Don't feel bad, don't feel guilty. I'm letting you know that it's perfectly normal, perfectly fine. And I think it's something that people need to speak a little bit more openly about without necessarily getting into this whole thing where I'm gonna generalize. But I am gonna prioritize my safety, and if that means I have to generalize, then so be it. It is what it is. But anyhow, I hope that you can understand the nuance to the argument before somebody attacks me and says that I'm being hateful or resentful. I'm not. For the most part, I will give people the benefit of the doubt unless I need not to. And there's plenty of indicators that would let me know this is someone I need to stay away from. I think you need to learn how to do that. All right, I'll see you in the next one.